We are gifts, and we are blessings. We are His story in song. We are hope, and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words, and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. The door vador nagid golecha. The door vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. The door vador, these lips will praise your name.
During the recent Passover holiday, Debbie reminded me of the time just before Passover many years ago that she was admiring a Passover plate at ShopRite. Steve Ravitz picked it up and gave it to her. "Here, it's yours," he said. Debbie offered to pay, but Steve would have none of it. "Enjoy it with good health," he said. We take that plate out every Passover, and it's taken on new meaning for us since Steve's passing. I spoke to Debbie Ravitz a couple of weeks ago, and she echoed what I think we all know. Everyone in the community was touched by Steve. I saw a note from a lawyer friend of mine in Philadelphia who had commented on Steve's passing, and I asked him how he would have known Steve. He said, "Are you kidding me? He was the mayor of Rittenhouse." When I was first on the board of TBS many years ago, Steve was the immediate past president and became an invaluable mentor to me, with many a conversation in the TBS parking lot after our board meetings. And you know what I noticed the most about Steve? He listened. Indeed, our 30th US president, Calvin Coolidge, said, "It takes a great man to be a good listener." And as we all know, Steve was a great man. It's now my pleasure to introduce Debbie Ravitz and Lauren Ravitz.
Good evening. We'd like to begin by congratulating our dear friends Michelle and Jeff Levine, as well as Susan and Arnie Baskis, on their well-deserved honors. Thank you so much for your outstanding commitment and service to TBS over the years. Mazel tov to you all. Dad is what our father-in-law wanted us to call him. As soon as we were engaged to his sons. When we immediately shifted from calling him Steve to Dad, his typical grin became even bigger. He welcomed us, even before we were engaged, with love and open arms. His love of family was all-encompassing. He would burst with pride whenever he was in the presence or speaking about his children, Jason, Sean, Brett, Remy, and David, or his grandchildren, Amanda, Sophie, Luke, Andrew, Jesse, Haley, Jordana, and Dylan. And of course, he would have been overjoyed with his namesake and newest granddaughter, Skylar. It brought him great pleasure to spend quality time with his grandchildren. He made a point to form a special bond with each of his grandchildren, whether it was watching them play sports, taking his girls on a shop with Pop, enjoying the beach in Margate, or taking them out to dinner. Poppy Steve surely loved to be with family.
Besides being a devoted father, grandfather, son, brother, and uncle, Steve had many passions. He was a sharp businessman, a community activist, a racehorse lover, and a Philadelphia connoisseur. His community commitments are far too extensive to list, but TBS stood out as Steve's home away from home, and like his own family, TBS brought him much fulfillment. After a trip to Israel with Rabbi Lindemann in 1997, Steve felt a deeper connection spiritually to Judaism. As a result, he became much more active at TBS, developing relationships and taking on numerous positions. He was a member of the Endowment Committee, the chair of the Torah Endowment Fund campaign, and vice president of the board. He served as president of TBS from 2005 to 2007. Steve also spearheaded the search committees which ultimately hired Rabbi Peltz, Cantor Cohen, and Eric Jacobs as executive director. Besides all of the impressive positions he held, the personal impact Steve made on TBS was most noteworthy. In 2007, he helped bring students from Israel to TBS for a wonderful and memorable visit. Anonymously, he helped congregants through his own generosity and the Ravitz Family Acts of Kindness Fund to pay their dues, help students travel to Israel, and support initiatives with Masorti, the conservative movement in Israel. His travels with his TBS family included many trips to Israel and one to Cuba, led by his close friend and confidant, Rabbi Lindemann. While overseas, Steve never visited a social service agency without leaving a meaningful donation.
What is most amazing is that every single person in this room or watching this live stream has been touched by Steve in some way. Everybody knew Steve, whether from his friendly smile while shopping at ShopRite, his participation in community philanthropies, his interactions at TBS, or even from your favorite local restaurant or bar. Steve made a difference in all of our lives. Everyone has a memorable Steve story to share. But I think the Steve story that is most remarkable is that he would do whatever he could to help someone in need, even a complete stranger. We, as Steve's family, were not even aware of most of the support he gave to so many. Instead of the material things in life, giving is what made him feel complete. Steve was a true mensch and a role model to us all. We love and miss him every single day. And now, please enjoy this special video tribute for Steve.
There are many people who will give when you ask. There are fewer people who will come forward before you ask. Steve was the guy who came forward before.
My father once told me, you can never go wrong doing the right thing. I still hear him saying that to me.
Even to this day, you know, when we're talking about my dad, they're talking about him with such love. It makes me feel good to talk about it because it makes me remember the person that he was and the impact that he could have on so many people.
My daughter, Skylar, is named for Steve, and I know that he is living on within her and through her, and she also just wants to make everyone smile, and she brightens our lives just like my dad did.
He enjoyed being with people. He enjoyed just being on Rittenhouse Square. It was a part of who he was, showing his personality, and he had so much to give. And that's what he just loved to do.
Even as a kid, we would walk into Ponzio's, and a lot of people would know him, but it wasn't that. He knew them, and he knew them by name.
He knew how lucky his kids were and his grandchildren, and he always lived that life of wanting to pay it forward. to take care of other people that didn't necessarily have the opportunities or were afforded the opportunities that he had.
I've learned a ton from my dad over the years, and a ton has stuck with me. I think the biggest thing for me is work ethic and family. Just huge parts and foundation of who I am.
The core values he instilled in us was family comes first, no matter what. Family has each other's backs, no matter what.
As we became adults and my brothers and I came into the business, my dad he changed as a person. He got involved in the synagogue, became president of the synagogue.
We would be in a staff meeting. He would come in, and he would come in and join us, and we were just so excited to see him. He always brought a sense of joy, a sense of celebration when he was here.
TBS has always been so important in our lives, and regardless of what was going on, TBS always felt like home. Still to this day, when I walk in that building, I can feel my dad and I can feel his presence because of what it meant to him and what it means to all of us.
He was very close and looked at Rabbi Lewis like a mentor, looked at Rabbi Lindemann as a close friend and confidant.
Boy, how fortunate we are to have had Steve Ravitz as a past president. How I will remember Steve Ravitz is for his kindness and his generosity.
Before each trip to Israel that I took with his children or grandchildren, he came to my office. He said, "Where are you visiting?" I'd say the Jaffa Institute or Lekut Israel or one of these great tzedakot in Israel that do great things for people there. And he'd say, "Take $1,000 from the Ravitz Fund, present it there as tzedakah, but here's the catch. I want my grandchild to present it because I want them to learn what it means to give tzedakah." That, in a lot of ways, I think really sums up who Steve was. Not only was he generous, right, but he was committed to passing on that generosity and that legacy to his children and his grandchildren.
There was nobody in the congregation who traveled with me more than Steve has traveled with me, to whether it was to Israel or to Eastern Europe, but Israel most of all. I think we probably took 6 trips together at least, and it may be more than that. There is no time that we went to Israel that Steve did not go with tzedakah money in his pocket, which he would give in various places for that special individual that needs extra help or assistance.
When my grandfather passed, my dad was moved spiritually in many ways, and the synagogue was here for him, and he's had a very special relationship with Rabbi Lindemann. They were very close, one of my dad's deepest friends, and that came out of just hours and hours of work as well as just friendship that was created through that level of work. My dad was always passionate about leadership positions, and he liked being in charge, but he was in charge because he wanted to help. He thought he could make things better. And I would say most of the time when he left an organization, it was better than when he got there.
I think what always really struck me about Steve was his neshama, was his soul. He just loved life. He had a joy for life. He had a joy for being in community and being with other people. I remember that he would oftentimes just find his way back into where the clergy offices are. I don't know if anyone ever let him back there, but he ended up back there. And he would always spend time with Rabbi Lindemann, with Rabbi Peltz and Cantor Cohen.
He was motivated by seeing other people happy. That was his motivation to always be generous and to give and to make people laugh.
The other thing, too, that I really admire about Steve is determination to put together the kosher experience. We can get pretty much any kind of kosher food that we could need here in Cherry Hill. Is something that I think is a really important service that we have for our community, for our shul, for the broader community as well. And that was really due to his commitment and his vision.
I think when he opened the first kosher experience, this light kind of went off in his head and his connection got really deep in a good way. And when we were able to open on the other side of town too, I mean, he was so proud and so happy. The Ravitz Family Foundation meant the world to my dad. It started with my grandparents, and my dad and my uncle. They were able to bring it to a level that I don't know that anybody expected. If my dad were here today and see what we're doing and how we're doing it, I think that he would just be super proud.
I'm just so thankful to have a dad who was thoughtful, caring, and, really, really, really loved the community and loved the people around.
There's no question he's fulfilled the legacy that he set out to do. His heart was full to the very end. He left a big shadow for all of his children and grandchildren that we sit behind, but I think we're all proud of that.
These last couple years have been hard since Steve passed away, certainly for the family, for us as well. But what's been a silver lining in all of it is seeing how Sean and Debbie and Brett and Lauren and Jason and the whole family have really stepped up to pick up Steve's legacy with ShopRights, with the Ravitz Foundation, at TBS, at the JCC, and the community. I think the way in which Steve taught his children about what it means to be a member of the Jewish people and what it means to support the community has definitely gone through. It's really beautiful to see the way in which they have continued to carry on his legacy.
Please welcome the Ravitz family.
Teach your children well. Their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams.
So this gift is a little different. On behalf of TBS, we are presenting a piece of furniture that will be in the lobby that will be a bin for food donations, which we know was a passion of Steve's.
And it says, presented in loving memory of Steve Ravitz in recognition of outstanding service and dedication to Temple Beth Sholom.
You're good. You're up. On behalf of our family behind me and family, 2 rows of family right there, and just want to say thank you to the community, and even more in a micro way to the members and people affiliated with the synagogue that are here tonight. The last couple years have definitely not been easy, but our father would, those of you that knew him would know that, and we've all said it before, that in light of the health crisis of the last couple years, that he would want us to put our heads down, get to work, and lead the greater community at large out of the mess that we were all in, and that's what he would have wanted. And I want to thank, and we want to thank this building and the people that have been before all of us and will be after. 2 things that our father lived for that I think both have been mentioned was purpose, live a life with some kind of purpose, and then number 2, legacy. Legacy was important to him, but not in materialistic type ways. It was in that legacy, you heard the song Teach Your Children by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, L'Adore Vador, that type of legacy. And thank you to this synagogue for giving him a way to live out both of those 2 most important characteristics that he prided himself in, purpose and legacy. And thank you for all your support from our family for the last couple years. Your messages, checking in with us, from friends far and wide have helped us get through this surreal and unreal situation that's gone on. Thank you very much.
So
First, congratulations to the other honorees, the Baskis and Levines, your dear friends of our family, at different generations, but your passion for TBS has been contagious, and your honor is well-deserved. So we're so proud of all you do and have done at TBS, and we're proud to call you our friends. And Arnie, I'm going off the rails here real quick. You're wearing a kippah right now because you forgot your kippah. You did, right. Well, so I saw in the video there was a picture in front of Yad HaKashish in Israel, in Jerusalem. And so the kippah you're wearing is actually commissioned there. And it's on the back, if you look, it says The Kosher Experience, which my dad had commissioned. So his last little thing that he did, the joke that he pulled on all of us as honor for all of us. And if you're wearing palm trees on your kippah, that's from David's bar mitzvah. So yes, so Ron, incredible job. I got choked up when I walked in. I thought it was like a really cool thing. So those are Steve's kippot in the bin today. So we just got back from a special weekend in Michigan watching Amanda graduate. It's a tradition to wear your favorite maize and blue it's a tradition to wear your favorite maize and blue and big giant M's to honor the graduates at the ceremony. So as some of you may know, I've got a thing with the big yellow M. I'll leave that for no offense to Rabbi Peltz and any other Wolverines out there. Well, maybe some offense. It's a weird sports thing. So what was I to do? I didn't exactly have a huge wardrobe like the rest of the Michigan faithful. But what I did have was my dad's Michigan hat. Big yellow M and all. So I proudly sat there amongst the thousands with a piece of Poppy Steve joining in the celebration of his Manders. I felt his presence among the thousands in the big house with that big, proud grin, his face really red, because he was happy. And I felt it, I really did. And we all have those moments. The most amazing part of our dad's legacy is he somehow left all of us with piece of him. Whether if it's a physical material thing, or it's a special memory or place, or it's some random act of kindness that you were a part of. It's been over 2 years, but his memory remains as strong as ever. And everyone, as we've heard, has a Steve Ravitz memory. When Steve passed, the world was in a much different place. We never imagined having a small funeral and a Zoom shiva in memory of our dad. There was definitely a void through that experience that you can't explain. And I know my dad, in all of his humbleness, he would have loved a big funeral. I'm not kidding. Not that he would expect it, but he would have loved it. So when talking to both rabbis privately, we all agreed at some point that we would do something to honor his memory and many contributions that he made to the synagogue so that so many could get together, both here and online, and pay the respects, a void that we all had to suffer through. So we gather here tonight in a place where my dad truly called home. A piece of him will always be here. We will always see him sitting in that seat, right in front of Edco, right over there, second row on the aisle. He left his mark in so many ways here, and it's only natural we honor him. It feels special that we have filled this room with the love and community in mind, and we are finally physically present to honor a man who gave so much to so many with asking very little in return, other than to continue to be kind to one another and give of oneself, and most importantly, have fun doing it. Brett and I were talking about the fact that the honors and accolades he's received, been recognized for, it was about him, but truly it's about the journey that we honor. His struggles with mental health, his successes and failures in business, and the countless selfless acts that made him the man he was. So, on behalf of our family, we are humbled tonight by the show of support, and we gladly accept the award in his memory of our beloved father, grandfather, brother, and friends. Thank you.
Children well, slowly go by, and keep them on your dreams. The one they fix, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh.